I had a friend named Tom Rogers who lived his life in a wheelchair. He was paralyzed from the neck down. He caught polio when he was 19. Right at the end of the polio epidemic, he got struck by polio, and it left him paralyzed, everything from the neck down, even using a respirator. But one of the things about Tom that you couldn't help but notice is that Tom had a favorite thing in all the world, and that was a party. Tom loved going to parties. He loved the people, he loved the energy, he loved the joy, he loved the happiness, he loved the festivities, he loved being right there in the middle of it all. It didn't matter what the party was, there Tom would be right in the middle of things. And since when I was in college, my summer job was to live with Tom and help him and take him where he needed to be, I went to a lot of other people's parties with Tom. But there was one thing that Tom liked better than going to a party, and that was throwing a party. It didn't matter what the reasons were. Tom could come up with something as a reason to have a party. Maybe it was we had found a new restaurant that might send in food, and Tom wanted everybody to know about it, so it's time to have a party. We have to have a party. Maybe it would be Tom would find something in the newspaper or something going on in the world that he could turn and twist into a funny way and throw a party for it. It didn't matter. Tom would find a way, and our house wasn't that big, so he would just pack people in. There in the living room, just gathered all around him, and there he would be in his wheelchair, that respirator hose hanging out, laughing so hard he'd forget to breathe through the thing, enjoying the people, the talking, the energy, the celebration, in his element there among his people. Tom loved throwing parties. Now, you probably noticed that I said that Tom was paralyzed from the neck down. So when I say that Tom threw the party, I remember one party in particular that Tom threw. It was in the summer where someone had just introduced us to the idea of cooking corn on the cob on the grill. Have you tried that? It's fabulous. We had not known about this before, and Tom decided that this was the best thing he had ever eaten. Actually, everything Tom ate, he thought, was the best thing he had ever eaten. But this was the best thing he had ever eaten. And Tom decided that everybody needed to know that you could cook corn on the cob on a grill, and he needed to introduce everybody to it. And so, of course, it was time for... It started small. Originally, it was going to be just the cousins down the street. But by the time the day of the party got there, it involved renting this giant commercial-size charcoal grill that, in my memory at least, stretched at least from here all the way over here, and I think went back like 3 rows back over there. It was giant, and it was so hot. There were stacks and bags and bushels of corn, and it was so hot on that grill, and I tended it throughout this party, I lost all the hair on my arms. Singed right off of my arms as I was out there with this corn. I have to admit, I had a hard time enjoying that party. The thing was so big and so hot, we had to tuck it around the side of the house, which was away from everybody, so that it wouldn't light things on fire. It was the only spot we could fit it. I spent the whole party out there at that grill, losing hair off of my arms. I don't remember going inside. Now, that may be because I needed to tend the grill. But I think there's also some of it that I was a little grumpy. This was a lot. It had kind of gotten out of hand. I remember peeking inside. I remember Tom there in the midst of all his people. There with folks gathered all around, crowded, laughing and talking and in his element and in his joy. I remember seeing that. I don't remember taking advantage of it or being a part of it because this had turned into a lot. And I felt like maybe I didn't want to go inside. Maybe you've had that experience too. Whether it's because something just has turned into a lot, or maybe it's something that we feel like shouldn't be happening. Maybe it's we feel like someone's getting something that they don't deserve. Maybe it's someone's getting something that we think we do. Whatever the reasons are, and I suspect there are many, we probably have all felt that way at a time or two, right? Where we keep ourselves on the outside because we're grumpy or jealous or whatever it might be. And I suspect that we've all felt it because I'm pretty sure that's why Jesus told this particular story. It's to folks in that situation, in that moment, to me standing out by that grill, and to you as well when you felt that way too, that Jesus tells this story of an absurd father who throws deeply inappropriate parties. Jesus starts by saying there was a father, and this father had two sons. He had an older son who was very dutiful and around a lot, and a younger son who had long since learned how to wrap dad around that little finger. This time, that younger son had managed to connive to get half of the family's finances and disappeared. By the time he came back, he had nothing left except a flimsy excuse for why he might be able to work his way back into the house and keep himself under his own control, earn his own way, something that he's not even very sincere about. And do you know what that father does? That absurd father goes across that threshold to a son that isn't even that sorry. That father steps out and goes to him and won't even let him finish. He doesn't even listen. Instead, this father grabs him, arms open wide, embraces him and holds him and says, "We have to have a party because my joy is too big. It's too much. I have to share this or I'm going to explode. Invite everybody. Bring in that charcoal grill. Go get the corn. We have to have a party because my son that I lost is home. The son I've been longing for, the child, the dear one that my heart has never stopped missing is back. And my love has brought him back to life. We have to have a party." Did you notice that the party is not for the younger son? It's not a party thrown for him. The party is because the father's joy is just too big. It is too much. And it sets everybody to dancing. Of course, there's another son. The older son that's been out in the fields, and on his way back, he can hear the sounds of an inappropriate party. And he mistakes it. He thinks that this is a party thrown for that son. He does not understand his father's joy, and that it is too big to be contained. It must be shared and celebrated. And he holds himself outside, maybe out by that charcoal grill. And he stands there and he will not participate. And that absurd father, for a second time, steps across the threshold to go find and greet a lost son, his other lost son. And he says, "Son, you don't understand. Everything that is mine is yours, and this son, this brother of yours, is alive. We have to celebrate." Jesus doesn't tell us what happens. We never get to find out if the older son gets to discover the father's joy or not. Does the older son is he ever found? Does he reclaim his brother? And how long was that younger brother, how long did he stick around? I suspect this isn't the first time. How long will he stay this time? They've lost half the farm. Is there going to be enough for the three of them? What's going to happen in the morning, and who has to clean up? Jesus doesn't tell us. Instead, what Jesus says is, that's who God is. Our God is a party thrower, whose joy whenever one of his beloved children is found is so big it fills the universe and sets all of heaven dancing. Every time one of us is found. Jesus says, our God is the woman who lost a coin and turned everything upside down to find that coin. And when she found it, threw a party because her joy was too big. Jesus says, that's our God. God is that woman. Jesus says, our God is a shepherd whose flock of 99 sheep isn't complete until he goes and finds the lost one and brings it back and calls his friends and says, I have found the one that is lost. Come share my joy. It's too big for me. We simply have to have a party. Jesus says that's who our God is, whose mercy and love chases us into every corner, even into the pigsties, out into the fields, and yes, out into the dark, out by that charcoal grill. That's who our God is. And when God's mercy finds us and we come to ourselves and come back where we belong, there simply has to be a party. God's joy is just too great. And God's standards for the guest list are so low that everybody's welcome. Everybody is welcome. That's who our God is. So filled with joy over all God's children that there just has to be a party. We have to celebrate. There's just too much joy.